nothing more than dividing the world into two blocks, and the unfortunate block politics that is on, and we see a Cold War scenario between China and the US, and an active war zone in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine, with millions of dollars being pumped into Ukraine to fight the Russian forces. This attempt, this year's G7 summit was focusing on primarily on two things. One was to counter China's Belt and Road Initiative, and the other one was to impose further sanctions on Russia so that it could not or it fails to support or finance its war in Ukraine. The main decisions which have been taken, I think they are going to be counterproductive. And why do I say that? You would remember that just a few days ago there was another event, a global event, BRICS summit, where Chinese President Xi Jinping, he clearly mentioned that the sanctions which are being imposed on Russia, this is a double-edged sword. These are going to be counterproductive, and weaponizing the economy is not the solution. The ripple effect is going to come back. In the short term, it might affect Russia and the third world countries, but even the developed world is going to feel the brunt. And today you see the national average of gasoline, the gas prices in America. They are more than $5 for the first time in the history. Again, the decisions which have been taken, number one, they are going to counter China by pumping $600 billion, making sure that the G7, the most modern, the most industrialized and the richest democracies in the world, are going to make sure that they are pumping in $600 billion by 2027, and with the sole objective of countering China's influence in Far East Asia, in ASEAN region, in some other African countries. And the second, the other two decisions which I think are the most important and prominent decisions, one is to impose a ban on import of gold from Russia. The G7 countries are not going to buy gold from Russia. Now the impact is going to be disastrous. Why do I say that? Russia's exports to like after energy, gold is the second biggest export by Russia, which is about 16 to 17 billion dollars per year. Now that is going to affect as well. There is going to be a gap between supply and demand, and ultimately there would be a price hike. Secondly, they have decided to bring a cap, or to impose a cap on the price of Russian oil. How they are going to achieve that is yet to be seen in the coming few weeks. They are going to devise a mechanism, but the information which is coming out, they are going to ensure that the shipments are not large enough that leave the Russian shores, and also the insurance is going to be increased for Russian crude and Russian refined oil product. The way this world is being run by these so-called richest countries and democracies, they say that they have developed a new a rules-based international order. They talk about human rights, they talk about human values, they talk about collective growth, but what we see which is being practiced all across the world, the way they are playing with it. Now, for example, Pakistan cannot purchase oil from its western neighbor Iran. For example, Venezuela, which is one of the richest countries in terms of energy resources, it cannot produce enough oil. It could not produce enough refined and crude oil to even fulfill its own needs. Just imagine a country that has one of the biggest reservoirs in the world of energy, and it cannot. Now, the US, what it is doing, or the so-called developed world, I think what they're doing is that they understand, they very well understand that the developing world, which was now dependent on China, and they were formulating their policies in alignment with China. They were financially dependent as well. Now, after this global oil shock, I would say, they are going to feel the brunt. Their resources are going to be consumed in it. Their governments are going to be either broke, they won't be able to pay for their import bill, and the burden that is being transferred on the average commoner on the ground, on street, who is consuming oil every day, purchasing it at a very higher price, there is going to be anarchy in so many states. There is going to be a change of calls for change of regime, and then these developed countries, they are going to pump in money through IMF, through some other banks and other forums, and for that they are going to that is the time when they are going to bring in their own conditions, that you have to cut down your relationship with China. I asked the same question from Pakistan's Foreign Ministry spokesperson Asim Iftikhar during the last briefing, that what is Pakistan's point of view regarding these sanctions which are being imposed, and he confirmed that Pakistan is being badly affected by the sanctions imposed by the US, and the current crisis between Russia and Ukraine has aggravated that. And he also said that as far as Pakistan is concerned, Pakistan believes that for imposing any kind of sanctions on any country, the relevant forum is the United Nations Security Council and UN, and these bilateral sanctions or some multilateral forums, and if some countries, a group or clique tries to impose sanctions, that is actually counterproductive.